Today we're going to remove a turbo assembly from both engines on a 42-foot C-Ray. These are Cummins 8.3 liter engines. They are turboed and aftercooled. You can see how hot the turbo has gotten over time due to the discoloration of the paint. That is a clear indication that the turbo is running way too hot. Also, another issue is, once I remove this air filter, you will see that the oil seal has been leaking internally as well. So, now that the air filter has been removed, we need to remove the oil supply line to the turbo. We need to remove the coolant supply line to the turbo. Then we're going to drain the coolant from the lower coolant hose with this clamp right here. We're going to drain it into this bucket that I have. We'll also need to remove the oil drain hose, which is this bigger hose right there, which goes to the bottom of the turbo. Stand by for further details. As you can see, I am prepared to remove the oil supply line from the turbo. For all of you do-it-yourselfers out there, please note that whenever you have a flexible hose with a nut on the end of it, it is imperative that you use what is called a flare nut wrench, or in layman's terms, they call it a line wrench. If not, there's a very good chance that you will round off the nut off the end of that hose assembly, and therefore you'll need to buy a new one. Also, this particular one has another bushing fitting between the hose assembly and the turbo, and as you can see, when I go to turn this wrench, it wants to turn that lower nut as well. Well, the answer is to not just keep cranking on the flare nut wrench. You must use two wrenches to hold the lower bushing steady while you loosen the flare nut. See how easy that was? That's how you do it properly. Now you just finish loosening the flare nut while you hold the bushing with the other wrench. As you can see, I have removed the coolant supply line to the turbo along with the oil supply line to the turbo. I've also loosened the oil and the coolant lines on the bottom sides of the turbo, so that way they will pop off, so to speak, when it is time to physically remove the turbo. The next step is to unbolt the exhaust tube, which are these bolts around this round circular flange. There's 4 of them. And then also to remove the turbo mounting bolts, or nuts I should say, from the end of the exhaust manifold, which will be 4 of these right here. It is always best practice to remove the most difficult nuts and bolts first, so that way you will leave yourself with the easiest ones to remove, and it will facilitate for easier removal. I'm about to remove the exhaust piping from the turbo assembly on this engine, but as is common with a lot of Cummins, these bolts right here are 10mm bolts, and after time they get rusted and they round off and they're stripped. So this is a 10mm wrench, and you can see how much slop is on there. I've already tried to hammer on a 9mm and other various standard sizes to get it to work. Sometimes it's necessary, you just got to cut them off, but it's not that easy in a marine environment. So you have to put up fire blankets and take other necessary precautions before you start to grind or cut the heads of the bolts off. As you can see, we're about to start here.